stand by for action.
Thanks for joining me. My name is Dave Miller. I am the Unpleasant Blind Guy, and I've been that for a year now. Want to start by thanking Dave Barker, that's No Way 90, host of the Blog Talk Radio program Is There No Way Out, for inclusion in his Twitter compilation page. You can catch Is There No Way Out at 7 p.m. on Saturday nights on Blog Talk Radio. And if you want to search for anyone's Blog Talk Radio program, all you have to do is go to the main Blog Talk Radio page and look for the search box at the top. Now, let's get into it. In the great arena of ideas, eventually it comes down to ordinary people. I'm going to address a post that was made over Facebook by an ordinary person. This because it contains inaccuracies that have to be addressed. I could have just ignored his post as the prinking of a progressive and moved on, but I respect the way that he addressed a story that, frankly, everyone's already tired of. Now, this individual goes on Facebook by Mike Ferlandium-47, and he starts, "Just my thoughts on the folks that want to, quote, blacklist, unquote, or boycott Firefox because of the recent hoopla." Well, now, let me start there as a sidebar. Mardi Gras is hoopla. The Super Bowl is hoopla. New Year's Eve celebrations are hoopla. Someone losing their job because of an opinion they expressed 6 years ago is quite out of the hoopla stage. People are very disturbed because of what happened to Brendan Eich, and rightfully so. When society itself begins to turn its back on the benefits and protections of free speech in the United States of America, it is a very dangerous thing. It's dangerous when it comes to Mike's speech, my speech, Mr. Eich's speech, or anyone else's speech. Now, to continue. Open source software is a very social progressive movement, not only providing free software with source code available to folks to modify, study, or tinker with, but it is for the betterment of mankind. Now, I'm going to stop there and address this inaccuracy. This is a moldy oldie from Occupy Wall Street and everything that came before it. It implies that progressives, and only progressives, concern themselves with charity or the betterment of mankind. Now, I normally don't put a lot of stock in studies and polls, but several have been done that show that when it comes to charity, conservatives give more than progressives, possibly because progressives expect the government to act as the one and only source of charity. Giving of one's personal time for the betterment of mankind is not the exclusive province of progressives. Now, Mike and others may ask, well, then why don't more people in the open source community speak out as conservatives? I would say to Mike, you might want to ask Brendan Eich that question yourself. To continue, one cannot simply just say that they will boycott Firefox because of the situation. Simply put, Firefox's internals are in more things than you would believe. Not to mention that if this really angers you, it's really just Firefox you should be mad with, but the open source community as a whole, as they raise the pressure on this fella. Now, what Mike means here is that the Firefox web browser is not a single program. It's called an application, and it's called that for a reason, because it combines several programs in one. Now to continue. So that would mean boycotting a lot more things than just Firefox, like pretty much abandoning your computer altogether. Pretty much all websites operate on a platform that is a Linux, Apache, PHP, MySQL, etc. So you would have to start convincing people to abandon those technologies and use stuff like Windows Server, which is not free, is not as secure or as functional as the open source LAMP platform. Let's just say that running a web server with Windows is horribly expensive and woefully insecure. If you want to abandon Firefox, you should also abandon OpenOffice, WordPress, FileZilla, Audacity, GIMP, VLC Media Player, Handbrake, Blender, 7-Zip, Notepad++, TrueCrypt, Linux, and many others. Now, I acknowledge what Mike says about Firefox and about open source as far as how many wonderful programs the open source community produces and keeps updated. That said, if people want to uninstall Firefox, it sends a clear message of support for freedom of speech. That is never useless, and it is never empty, even if one decides to keep other programs produced in the open source community. What Mike is saying is that if people only uninstall Firefox, they are basically being hypocrites because so many other great programs are produced by the open source community. I would ask Mike how he managed to make a Facebook post with a homemade abacus. My guess is he didn't use a homemade abacus. My guess is that Mike used a computer, be it a desktop, laptop, notebook, or tablet, or even a smartphone, all of which are produced by big business. And as we know, progressives do not like big business. So, I think Mike should be careful here when he hints at hypocrisy on the part of other people. Now, to continue his posting here. That being said, while the situation was probably not 100% fair to Mr. Ike, sidebar, gee, thanks for that bone you threw there, Mike. Let's get back to it. One has to consider that being in an open source project like Mozilla, you have to think of the greater implications of your political opinion, and certainly if you want to donate money to campaigns that are not socially compatible with the foundation you are leading, you should probably be an anonymous donor, just so there isn't backlash like this. So, what Mike is saying here is that people in certain employment positions should not be free to express their political views as Americans. They should hide them, remain in the shadows. Now, we all know how progressives feel about people remaining in the shadows. They want at least 12 million of them to come out of the shadows. Progressives are supposed to be all about people coming out of the shadows. Well, I guess unless it happens to be people that hold a political opinion they disagree with. Now to conclude, personally, I am indifferent to the situation. He was taking good care of the folks, and the foundation employed, and Prop 8 didn't pass. I consider that a win-win situation. I didn't highlight this just to pick on Mike. If anything, I highlighted it, pointed out the inaccuracies, and corrected them, because, in my view, everyone should support everyone else's freedom of speech and freedom of expression in the United States of America. I believe that as citizens, it is our duty. And now it's time for a part of the show that many listeners, including myself, find to be their favorite, Awesome Americans. And this one comes to me from Ms. Ruffin, a loyal listener. When most people return from spring break, they tell stories similar to, "Oh man, I got so hammered," or, "Well, I guess I had a pretty good time at spring break. I don't remember most of it." Spring Break 2014 is one that my Awesome American for this time, Ford Yates, will be able to top everyone's spring break story with. This story comes from WFAA-TV Channel 8 in Dallas and was posted on March the 10th. Headline: College freshman plans life-changing spring break for man in need of donor.
While most North Texas students are on spring break, relaxing, maybe hanging out at the beach, one college student is using his spring break to give back to a man he's never met. And it turns out his generous gesture could save that stranger's life. Here's Channel 8's Jason Whiteley.
Friends say Ford Yates is either crazy or just kind.
I try to be kind through my craziness.
He is packing for spring break, but the 19-year-old isn't heading to the beach with fraternity brothers from UT Austin. Ford is leaving to go save a stranger's life.
It's honestly just happened kind of fast. I've been more happier than ever doing it.
Ford is a bone marrow donor. He signed up last year after a short mouth swab. And then, though, came an unexpected email. Ford is a match for a 63-year-old man somewhere who is fighting leukemia.
It's pretty scary to tell a 19-year-old that there's a man out there depending 100% on your bone marrow to save his life.
What spurs a 19-year-old to do such a selfless act? Ford told us that one influence in all this is his mom, an American Airlines flight attendant who he watched face down and survive breast cancer when he was just a child.
Well, that was interesting because we don't talk a lot about that. He might forget his week-long trip at the beach, but he won't forget this experience and having the opportunity to save somebody's life and make a difference.
Ford is already taking medication, getting shots, and prompting his body to produce extra stem cells for that stranger in his 60s. He donates them on Tuesday while his buddies are at the beach. Quite a generous gesture for a teenager with a lot of life left to live. Jason Whiteley, Channel 8 News.
Quite the different spring break story. For his act of personal sacrifice and service to others, UT Austin freshman Ford Yates is an awesome American. Ford Yates' story, as well as other relevant source documents for the show, can be found at UBG Contact on the Twitter, the main contact point for the show where you can get hold of me with questions, comments, awesome American ideas. And something new has been added. When I can't do a show, or in lieu of a show, or I just feel like it, I've started to put out very short, what I call conservative bites. Look for those on my YouTube channel, and I will announce those over Twitter. I'd like to say at this point that I appreciate everyone who has stuck with me throughout this year. If I stop to thank everyone who has contributed, who has helped, who has encouraged, the show would go on for a very long time indeed. When I say that I appreciate each and every one of you, I mean it. Thank you for listening, and may your God go with you. Goodbye.